Hey Corsair, with my new PC build here, I'm going to run through and show you that. But first I'll show you the reason why I'm upgrading. So this is my original tower PC, if you can call that. So it's a mini ITX form factor. So tiny. This case is the Bit Prodigy. Very, very small. It's got a 180 front fan, radiator cooling it, an i7 4770K that I have overclocked to 4.4 gigahertz. Runs well, but it only has 2 RAM slots and it's maxed out at 16 gigabytes. So what's happened is I've been editing 4K video for a while, but I started to switch back and start using Adobe Premiere Pro, which is an absolute resource hog, and I started to get a lot of slowdown. So things look messy inside this case because I basically just added more SSDs trying to remove a bottleneck that I had with the editing. So I just put some Samsung 850 EVOs there, and I had them set up as RAID 0, 3 of them. Then that kind of fixed the problem. But then I ran into problems of the RAM being maxed out. I got a couple of warnings from Windows. It would sometimes pop up and saying basically, I have no memory left. And I'll just quickly show you. So only 2 slots. You can see I've got the old first generation Corsair H100i. Sorry, just trying to remember the name of it. And no graphics card here because that is now in my new system, which I will just show you in a second. So that's where I ran into problems. Obviously, you've got no expandability with this thing. You've got the 2 RAM slots, the CPU, and a PCIe slot there for your graphics card. That is it. And as a gaming PC, perfect. I mean, I can play ultra settings in 1440p with this machine, no problems. But when it comes to now 4K video editing and all of that, that's where this thing's just bogged down and become a bit of a nightmare to work with. So I'll show you my new setup now. So this is the new setup. It's a Corsair Obsidian 450D case. So it's a full tower case with an ATX motherboard. And it's got the 2 USB 3 ports there at the front and 240mm fans as the intake. And this thing actually just clicks just right out. Clips in and clips out. So easy cleaning of the dust filter on the front. There's filters on everything and plenty of room inside this case. So because I had a lot more room to play with, and it's my about 3rd or 4th or 5th PC build, and I took my time with this one, my cable routing on this is a lot better and not all sloppy, messy like the system you just saw, my first one, which is a bit of an embarrassment really. But this is now all set up. I have it overclocked at the moment. I have gone with a 6-core i7 6800K, which is currently running at 4.3 gigahertz with the voltage at 1.3, which I found was a good balance between power consumption, heat, and I think it's an okay overclock. I can actually get it up to 4.5, but I have to increase the voltage to 1.41, which I found was a little too high. And I've got the Corsair H100i V2, and that's starting to struggle a little bit with that kind of overclock. It peaked up to 80 degrees. We're at the moment where I have it only running at 1.3 volts is still a bit higher, but at 4.3 gigahertz, it's only getting up to about 68 degrees max temps, which I find is really good. So graphics card, I went with a Gigabyte, it's from my old system, 1070. Now I didn't get the 1080 because I'm not actually gaming that much anymore, but I'm not gaming at 4K. I don't have a 4K monitor. I have a 1440p monitor. So for me, I can max out everything on Ultra, and that's fine. And most of the time, these fans don't actually come on this thing, which is really good. Fan stop comes on, and if I have V-Sync enabled, then it will actually never go over 60 degrees, I think it is, for these fans to actually come on. Now, if you can just see in there, right there is a solid state drive that I'm using. That's an M2, 22 by 80. And I decided to go for the Samsung SM961, which is basically OEM version of the newly released Samsung 960 Pro. Now this thing is blistering, blazing fast. I will show you the speeds of that later on in a couple of benchmarks very quickly of this current rig that I've set up. And the power supply, I went with a 1000-watt one, which is probably a slight overkill because I don't plan to run SLI, but I thought for future proofing, that's why I went with it, because I never know. Maybe I will add another second 1070 later on, maybe I won't, but at least then I know that I've got power covered, that there won't be any problems. This is a Platinum 80 plus 80 rated one there, so should do the job well, and has so far. It's quite quiet. I can't even hear the fan on it, which is really good. Now RAM, I decided to go for a bit of an overkill here because last time 16 gigabytes, when I built my PC my last one 3 years ago, 16 gigabytes, then people were saying, oh, you only need 8 gigabytes of RAM. And now a lot of people are saying, well, 32 is kind of the minimum you want to use when you're video editing. So I went a little bit crazy and I decided to go with 64 gigabytes because it's also quad channel too. I went with the 4 chips and got these guys right here. So the Trident Z there, it's double data rate 4, and this one runs at 3200 megahertz CL14, so not bad timings considering that clock speed. So RAM bandwidth is not going to be a problem anymore, and editing 4K video, it's going to be pretty much live there when I do the edits. There's going to be no delay, no slowdown, which is exactly what I want. And for future proofing, that RAM should be good hopefully for 5 years, which is another reason why I just decided to just go, damn it, just buy the 64 gigabytes instead of 32. So one thing I did remove for increased airflow and the fact that I'm not going to be using any 3.5 inch hard drives because they're just a bottleneck, if you ask me, unless they're used for storage. Got rid of that hard drive bay. That's completely gone. So good airflow going across my GPU and everything's open there. And I set the cooler as well to be pushing out the top there. So that seems to be working fine. Now port-wise, with the rear of the motherboard, plenty there. Lots of options there with the audio. Stack of USB 3 ports, and it also has USB 3.1 support too. So that's covered there. I mean, I'm not going to run out of USB 3 ports anytime soon with this board. Oh, and just to point out as well that the case has a really cool dust filter on the top. It's just magnetic, so that's just clip on, easy to clean that as well. So I can just pull that straight off. And that's the motherboard I got, which is the MSI X99A SLI Plus. So fan noise on it in the beginning with the default profiles with Corsair's Link, with the H100i V2, I found to be too loud. I mean, it had some stupid peaking. Suddenly it would just roar and then go silent and then start roaring again. But I adjusted the fan curve, I tweaked that, put my own custom fan settings, as well as the system fans, all 3 of them too. And now the fan noise is actually really good, manageable. It doesn't irritate me. I'm very sensitive to fan noise. I absolutely hate gaming PCs that are roaring away. This doesn't have that, which is good. Even at full load, it's not really that loud. So there's only one thing more I need to do, and that is I'm going to probably, once I set up and move all my files away from my old PC, I'm going to use those 3 SSDs, or maybe just 2 of them, in here as RAID 0 as a storage drive, a 1 terabyte storage drive. Make use of that. And I will keep the SM961M.2 SSD as my boot drive, of course, because it is quite quick. So I'm going to have a look at the benchmarks now for you. Just quickly run through just a couple of things. So it won't be too lengthy there. And that'll be it. Now to show you a few benchmarks, this is Cinebench R15. See the CPU score there of 1305. Very good score. I'm very happy with that. That's probably helped along with my RAM bandwidth, the speed that I have too. And the OpenGL score there as well isn't bad. And CPU Z, there's the benchmark. I'll put it up against a reference i7 5960X and it gets about the same score there. So not bad at all. You see here that the CPU has maximum speed of 4.3 gigahertz and I'm running the voltage as mentioned at 1.3. And I'm just running a benchmark now on that SM961, which is basically the Samsung 960 Pro SSD. You can see there, read speed so far really good, and the Firestrike score for those interested of my setup here. So the graphics score, I mean, almost 20,000, not bad at all. Physics score, also good. I'm really happy with the performance so far. SSD benchmark is just about to finish up. You can see really, really good speeds out of this. I mean, that's blazing fast, the reads. Write speeds should actually be about 2000. They're a little bit slower. I'm not too sure whether it's something to do with the drivers I need for the NVMe from Samsung. They did have some drivers out for that, but you can see now that's finished up there. Very, very quick speeds there. And finally, the keyboard I use is a Razer Deathstalker, thanks to recommendation from Demir Frank, another YouTuber. I really like this keyboard because it's got those cheeklet style, not those big clicky gaming keyboards. I don't particularly like them. I like them for gaming, but not for typing on. For typing on, I find them really bad. I get a lot of typos, but I prefer this kind of like laptop style keyboard. And if you're after a kind of an typing experience like a notebook, like a laptop, then this is one I definitely recommend. It's the Deathstalker from Razer. My mouse is just a cheap piece of rubbish that I picked up from, I don't even know where I got that one now. Not very good at all. And then my Xbox One controller for gaming, with games like Tomb Raider, for example. I don't actually own an Xbox One. So that's my setup there, my new setup, my new PC build. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you back in the channel. So now you know what I'm editing my 4K videos on. I'm just going to move and set up all my files now, which is a real hassle. Hopefully I'll see you back in the channel soon.